So you're probably wondering at this point, who is this Governor Tim Walz fellow? What's he all about? Well, we're gonna run through some of his greatest hits, starting with this endearing moment.
It is now.
And my legs hurt
Okay, so that is Governor Tim Walz obviously signing a bill. It was a bill to guarantee free breakfast and lunch for all students in Minnesota, which is the sort of thing that you might think, especially if you live outside of the United States, like, isn't that just automatic? But this is America after all, so don't take anything for granted, but he did get it done and it happened. And you've seen many times when politicians have been signing bills and there have been kids around them. And obviously, look, it's a photo op and all that, I understand that, but didn't that one feel a little bit different? Like the kids did seem genuinely happy to be around him, and he really did seem genuinely happy for them. And of course, he has his own history as a teacher. I'm sure he had many instances in which he knew that kids that he was teaching weren't getting enough food. And now he's able to come in, take his experience and get it done. And it's just super endearing. I just love it. So anyway, that's a great bill. And I didn't know that he had signed that. There's a lot that I didn't know about Tim Walz before the whole VP search started. And it turns out that there's a lot that he got done that I think a lot of people are going to like. And so I wanna run through some of these greatest hits. And More Perfect Union on Twitter and Threads, go to Threads, don't go to Twitter. In fact, get off of Twitter. Why are you on Twitter anymore? Did a great job at compiling some of these. And I wanna talk through some of them, as well as some of his biographical information that I put together. And so let's talk about some stuff and you see which you like most. So last year he signed a law enacting paid family and medical leave, giving workers up to 20 weeks off, which is great. I mean, that's more than I got even in California. California's pretty good compared to the rest of the US. I got 12, they got 20. I love it and I want them to get that. He said paid family and medical leave seemed like a pipe dream for 10 years. It seemed like, why can other people have this and we can't? Well, now you can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And they have it. That should be federal. And maybe they'll get it done. It's a thing that he cares about. It's a thing that he did. Maybe they can make it happen at the federal level now. It's wildly popular and I think it's morally demanded. So anyway, that's good. This is a little bit wonkier, but I think it's important too. So he approved the nation's broadest right to repair law last year that allows independent shops and owners of phones, laptops, and other electronic devices to more easily repair products without relying on corporations like Apple and Google. Now, I don't know if you've ever had to go through this, but computers and phones are incredibly expensive devices. And it used to be that you would work on them 20 years ago or whatever. But now it is much more difficult to do that. They're made in a way that they're not made to be repaired. And in many cases, simply opening up the cases will void your warranty. So that's an Apple thing, that's a Google thing. And Europe has been leading the way in trying to give people back their right to work on these things. And we're not there as a country yet, but Minnesota got it done, which is great news. So you have that. You also have him signing a law. It's a financial aid program giving free college tuition to students whose families made less than $80,000 a year. It made such an impact that North Dakota State University, fearing competition, began offering the same incentive. But that's exactly how this is supposed to work, okay? I generally want things to be done at the federal level. I think that Republicans generally lie when they pretend that they care about state level stuff or whatever and think that it's important that it happens, but this is how it can work. We have 50 different laboratories for experimentation and democracy. And when one state gets it right, not only gets it right, but gets it so right that people are gonna flee your state so that they can benefit from that, then it spreads. It's awesome. That should also be at the federal level, okay? But there's a whole lot more besides. And I know this is getting into wonky territory, but you need to know who this guy is because you're gonna see a lot of him over the next hopefully 4 to 8 years. But anyway, he signed a sweeping omnibus bill this year that included universal background checks for guns, a so-called red flag law, and large investments in community-based violence prevention programs. So those are good, very much in the realm of common sense gun regulations. And by the way, not only did Tim Walz get this done, which is important for this year and for this cycle, he didn't used to be that great on guns. He was endorsed by the NRA at one point. But over time, and after all the shootings that we've seen, he was able to take it in, change his policies, okay? And so he did that. And that is great news, and that's what you wanna see. The ability to change, not as a result of getting like a fat campaign check, but because you see the consequences of the current status quo when it comes to gun regulation, and then you change things, okay? In addition, ban non-compete agreements and captive audience meetings. So some great stuff for labor there. Significantly expanded leverage for workers in meatpacking plants, warehouses, schools, and more. We need more people like that in government at the highest levels. Tim Walz seems like a good guy when it comes to this stuff. Created the nation's first standards board for nursing home workers. This year, that board voted to set him a minimum wage of more than $23 an hour starting in 2023. So more great news for workers there in that particular vital industry. Ban junk fees, just a small thing, but I like it. And not only that he did it, but this is a thing that Joe Biden has been like really working on, these sort of like ways that they nickel and dime you or 5 and 10 buck you. And I like now Harris maybe can continue that with an ally who has also been waging that war. Little thing like legalizing recreational weed, he did that, as well as expunging the record of people convicted for misdemeanor possession. Again, seems insane in 2024. This isn't illegal across the entire country, but he helped get it done in his own state. And it certainly took a while. I believe that the campaign to legalize recreational weed there has been going on since like the Ventura days, but he got it done. That's great news. He also pushed for and signed the Alex Smith Insulin Affordability Act that capped insulin prices at $35, which you love to see. I don't personally think, and call me a radical, that people should go bankrupt so that they simply die, okay? So they don't die. And so great news there. Again, we've had similar sort of thing here in California, and there's certainly more talk federally, but we need more of that. And a broader version of this, he created a prescription drug affordability board to rein in out of control drug costs more broadly. In June, the state began monitoring hundreds of drugs for price transparency to better inform patients and policymakers. So that's an intermediate step. Obviously, we need to go way further than that, but it's good news. Also, and you'll hear about this later on in our show, mandated carbon-free electricity by 2040 in the state. It's 2040. It's not tomorrow, okay? There's time. That is not radical. Stop letting people call a 2040 time horizon for us no longer poisoning the air, water, and land that we live on as being radical. It's not. So that's good news. And by the way, before I move on to other policy areas, none of this is to say that every one of these bills is exactly what it should have been. I've been a little bit critical even as we've been doing this, and I'm sure we'll find out more about his record. No candidate is perfect, okay? We're all discovering more about Tim Walz. Maybe some of you were Walz, experts or whatever, but it's good news, okay? And better than a lot of people that you could have chosen. But additionally, I want to focus on one of the most important issues for this cycle. The president of Reproductive Freedom for All called Walz, quote, a steadfast champion for reproductive freedom, working tirelessly to protect and expand abortion access for Minnesotans. And then on the other side, the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America called him and Harris, quote, the most pro-abortion presidential ticket America has ever seen. And to that I say, don't threaten me with a good time. Again, they're not radicals. They're not trying to do abortions even after birth, all the insane conspiracist lies that they tell, but they do believe that you should have control of your body. They think, and again, radical, that you should have the rights that you had for 48 of the last 50 years. And I don't think that's crazy. And on a related topic, he and his wife had their 2 children through in vitro fertilization. He's talked about that in his media appearances. Both very salient issues for the cycle we're in. And oh, what do you know? You have a guy with this record on IVF and abortion who's gonna be doing a debate against JD Vance, who is literally among the most radical people in America when it comes to abortion. He doesn't want you to be able to get an abortion, even in the case of rape and incest. Put him on a stage with Tim Walz and see how he does. So that's great news. Also, this is less bills, this is more just his personal record. He was an early supporter of gay rights. He sponsored Mankato West High School's first gay-straight alliance back in the 1990s, and has said it was important at that time for the sponsor to be, quote, the football coach who was the soldier and was straight and was married. And I just love that. It was back in the 90s. Again, I don't wanna like dampen the vibes, but when did Hillary Clinton switch over? Like 2012, 2014 or something, like it was back in the 90s. That's great, that's great. Biographically, obviously Midwestern governor, we've already covered it. Military veteran, former school teacher, all of this is good news. And in terms of why you should be excited, I've given you the policy reasons, but I'm sure you've seen his appearances. He was on the White Dudes for Harris call that I was on, he was great there. He's the guy that sort of got the weird talking point going. Obviously, people have been criticizing them as weird for a long time, but he's the one that inspired the most recent crusade. And how has that been going for the right? So love it. He's got good instincts too, which is awesome. Now, again, not to say that everything is gonna be like awesome. They're gonna criticize him for a lot of stuff. We'll talk about some of it later on. But first off, you've probably seen going around his mugshot, which is weird because I thought mugshots make you the coolest guy ever recently. But anyway, he did have a pretty bad DUI. It was 30 years ago, but it was a pretty bad DUI. He was driving way above the speed limit. Now, after that DUI, he apparently gave up alcohol, and it's been 3 decades. So that's one of the things they're gonna focus on. You have the policy that we were talking about, and then you have the 3 decades ago DUI that apparently changed his life forever. So, balance those things. But there's a lot more to him. He doesn't drink coffee, and this is really the most negative thing. He doesn't drink coffee, but he does like caffeine. You know what he drinks in place of coffee? Diet Mountain Dew. So he's not that dissimilar from JD Vance, perhaps. I'm kidding. But anyway, obviously I'm excited. I know a lot of you are. We're gonna find out more about him. He's gonna be doing an event with Harris today. He's gonna be doing I think it's like a 5-day, 7 swing state tour. We're gonna hear a lot of speeches from him. We're gonna see him in the media. I'm very excited, can't wait to hear his speech at the DNC. But this is like, we're on a good path with Harris. And I think this just adds a little bit more fuel to the fire, which is good news. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.